Well, look, folks, I'm going to say something. Everybody has ideas about what to do about a rational gun policy. There is a Second Amendment, and you do have a right to bear arms, but not an unlimited right. No amendment is absolute.
Except the Second Amendment is the only right in our Constitution that literally says shall not be infringed. It didn't say shall not be banned or shall not be severely limited. It said shall not be infringed. That is not a high standard. It's actually incredibly low. Legally, an infringement is a minor offense that involves breaking a rule or a law. Right now, we have over 300 federal gun control laws limiting our Second Amendment rights and over 20,000 on the state and local level. We've passed infringement. We're at complete and utter violation at this point. And yet, Joe, I like to infringe on people's personal space, Biden, has the audacity to act like there aren't gun laws limiting our right to bear arms, and we're just all running around with surface-to-air missiles and JDAMs at our disposal. We don't have anywhere near an absolute right to bear arms because people like you keep infringing on our rights. And sadly, we just keep letting you.
I own a 20-gauge shotgun. I own a 12-gauge shotgun. I'll answer your question in a minute, sir. I own a 20-gauge and a 10-gauge shotgun. I just skeet shoot. I don't even hunt. My sons are hunter. They bird hunt. You know, we protect, by the way, geese crossing the international boundary more than we do people. You can only have three shells in your shotgun if you're going goose hunting. Okay, but you can have 100 rounds in a magazine that you can buy today.
Notice Joe Biden said nothing about security of a free state or self-defense. He only talked about hunting. The Second Amendment has absolutely nothing to do with hunting. The founding fathers didn't start a revolutionary war with the British because they wanted to protect our right to hunt. They started a revolutionary war because the British were trying to do exactly what Joe Biden is trying to do now. Take guns.
Hey, so I'm the only person who's ever beat the NRA nationally. I beat them flat out twice. I'm the guy that got the Brady bill passed. That is the background check bill. I even had Democrats on the stage who voted against the Brady bill.
Here's a prime example of why there is no such thing as compromise when it comes to the Second Amendment. Joe Biden is bragging about passing the background check law and is also the same guy saying we need universal background checks. He literally wants praise for passing a law that he's also saying is ineffective, so we need more of it. This is just dumb.
Wrong. The Constitution doesn't say anybody can own a weapon. It says only certain people can own weapons.
What? That's just wrong. Like, really wrong. The Second Amendment in its entirety literally says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Nowhere in the Constitution did it say certain people. It literally said the people, and then proceeded to tell you not to infringe on that right. And here you are in all of your glorious solemnity telling us the Constitution said certain people. Like, it's right there on the paper.
If you are incapable of thinking or you're mentally ill, you can't.
Joe, there are a lot of people who think you're incapable of thinking and are mentally ill. Just saying.
Own a weapon. If you're a terrorist, you can't own a weapon. You shouldn't be able to own a weapon if you're an abuser, so on and so forth. There's never been a limit on that anybody could own a weapon, period.
You know what's ironic? Joe is a politician and thus a part of the government, and is also trying to tell us that the Second Amendment placed restrictions on our right to bear arms, when in fact, the founders wrote the Second Amendment to place a restriction on the government's ability to infringe on our right to bear arms. Talk about revisionist history.
No, and by the way, those who say the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots, a great line. Well, guess what? The fact is, if you're going to take on the government, you need an F-15 with Hellfire missiles. There's no way an AK-47 is going to take care of you if you're going to take on, you're worried about the government coming down, knocking down your door.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why the Second Amendment was written. The whole point of the Second Amendment was to give the people the power to fight back against a tyrannical government. Joe Biden just told everyone in that room that there is nothing they can do to stop the government from oppressing them, so just fall in line. This is someone running to be the president of our country. We went to war with a superpower because they said the same things Joe Biden is saying now, and we want to make him the president? Are we that dumb? Can we be so far removed from history that we honestly would consider voting for a man who thinks it's futile for free people to rise up against a tyrannical government? Hell, if Joe Biden were alive during the Revolutionary War, he'd be the person telling everyone to just comply with the British because they're so powerful. As far as I'm concerned, anyone making a statement like this is a traitor to this country. Yet, here he is running to be the president, and people are just okay with that. You people need to wake up. You don't get these rights back once they're gone. That's like asking a thief to return your stuff once he's taking them. Stop letting people who have armed security tell you what you can or can't use to defend your life. Because I promise you, if that time comes, they won't be there to protect you.
And so it's bizarre. We never said you could own any weapon at all from the beginning. You can't own a machine gun. You can't own a bazooka. You can't own an M1 tank. No matter how much money you have, you can limit the kind of weapons that are able to be owned.
Again, yes, it did. It said the right of the people to keep and bear arms, not certain arms, but arms general, shall not be infringed. And stop it. You know damn well up until the late 1980s, we could own machine guns. That wasn't prohibited by the Second Amendment. That was prohibited by anti-gun politicians like yourself, manipulating people to give up their rights. Just because it's a law doesn't mean it's constitutional. Chicago once had a law prohibiting the ownership of handguns, and that law was found to be unconstitutional and an infringement on our Second Amendment rights. And yes, you can own a tank. Goodness. Listening to Joe Biden talk about guns is like listening to a 6-year-old talk about quantum physics.
And so I think, and by the way, all the work I've done on this, including in our administration, I now have over 58% of the NRA members acknowledging you can't own an assault weapon.
If 58% of NRA members agreed with an assault weapon ban, we wouldn't be having this conversation because we already have one. Joe is a bold-faced liar. I searched and I searched and I searched, and I found no stat that said 58% of NRA members support an assault weapon ban. But I did find a study where they said 80% of NRA members support criminal background checks. Now, keep in mind, there are over 5 million members in the NRA, and there are millions of people who think they're NRA members but aren't. This particular survey asked 196 self-identified NRA members if they supported criminal background checks. They didn't say universal background checks, just criminal background checks. And of the 196, 141 said they supported criminal background checks. This is how they concluded that 80% of 5 million plus members of NRA supported criminal background checks. They asked 196 people out of 5 million. And you really expect me to believe that 58% of NRA members agree with banning the most popular rifle in the country?
There's no need for it. You can't have a magazine that has more than 10 rounds in it. And I'll do it again, because here's what happens. Talk about moral depravity. These beautiful young kids that are here, and I hope I'm not saying too much with them here, but these kids that are here, when you sent those children to school in kindergarten or first grade this year, second, third, fourth grade, what's the first thing they learned to do? Well, it used to be, when we were worried about fires in schools, is drop, roll, and cover. Now it's duck and cover. Literally, train to duck and cover. Run down the hallway zigzagging. Talk about loss of a soul.
How are you going to cause panic and fear about school shootings by sensationalizing them all the damn time and then complain when schools start having active shooter drills? School shootings are incredibly rare. The statistical likelihood of any given public school student being killed by a gun in school on any given day since 1999 is 1 in 614 million.
Why? Because we're unwilling to have a rational policy that says you cannot have 20, 30, 40, 50 clips in a weapon.
You just got everything wrong here, and I mean everything. First, they're not clips, they're magazines. The law you're trying to pass literally called high capacity magazine ban, and you still call them clips. Not to mention, you can't put more than one magazine in a gun at a time. So I don't know where these guns are that can carry 20 to 30, 40 magazines, but trust and believe, I will be on Google looking for them tonight. All jokes aside, a high capacity magazine ban will do literally nothing to stop school shootings. Columbine happened when we had a high capacity magazine ban. They just carried multiple 10-round magazines. The Virginia Tech shooter used 2 handguns, none of which carried more than 15 rounds, to kill 33 people. He simply carried multiple magazines. So what are you gonna do next? Ban the use of magazines altogether? Like, this is stupid.
I visited all those parents, literally, all those parents up in Connecticut when those kids were killed. And I visited the same, anyway, every mass shooting. And guess what? What's left behind is devastating. Devastating. Not just the loss of life, which is horrible. Nothing worse than losing a child. But in addition to that, the psychological damage that's done. These kids. You know, the single greatest concern people have, the Generation Z, they call it, 7 to 17 years old. You know the single greatest concern they have? Literally. Rated by the Harvard Institute, it's on a scale to 1 to 5, 5 being extreme, getting shot in school.
And when I was a kid, I used to be scared of monsters under my bed. That didn't change the fact that the monsters didn't exist. As I said before, school shootings are insanely rare. But what do you expect when you play every school shooting on TV for 5 weeks straight and then memorialize the shooter by doing a deep sea dive into everything we could possibly know about him? You're gonna get kids that are scared of school shootings. Hell, after Columbine, I was scared of being shot in school. And that was the first major school shooting I'd ever learned about. You're adults. You should be the ones using logic and reason to solve problems, not blindly indulging your kids' irrational fears to push gun control that won't make your kids any safer.
And every single day in America, there's a mass shooting that occurs on our streets in our cities, in tough neighborhoods, that we don't even talk about. And so much of it can be prevented. So much.
Let me guess. You're going to prevent inner city violence with more gun control, even though the cities with the highest levels of gun violence have the most strict forms of gun control. Joe, go away. You care about inner city violence about as much as you cared about ending the segregated busing system. Oh, wait. Stop trying to sell gun control to communities that are the way that they are because you've neglected them for years, and then turn around and try to use the result of this neglect to push more gun control. Right now, there's a culture war against the Second Amendment, which is why I need your help spreading our message to counter their message. You can do this by leaving a comment, sharing this video, and click the bell and subscribe button. Let my voice be your voice, and let them know you want to keep America tactical. Because the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed wasn't a suggestion. It was a directive. Also, if you're wondering where to get your I will not comply, I lost all of my guns in a boating accident, the AR-15 is protected by the Second Amendment, and your state-specific Keep America Tactical shirts, click the links in the description section of this video.